Welcome to my garden studio. Thank you for being here. Today we're going to do another back to basics. And the reason I do these videos is because I think that a lot of folks out there kind of understand some of the stuff and maybe not. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with an horizon line, I'm just using a kind of stick there. The horizon line can be anywhere. It could be up there, could be off the page, could be down at the bottom. For this demonstration, I'm doing the horizon line very close to the middle of the page. Now I want to take a look at this box. Okay, and I'm going to shine a light into the box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create so if you can see that inside the box, yeah, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a 1-point perspective and then add on from there. So my 1-point perspective is going to be roughly at that point there. So if you can imagine this box that we're going to create 1-point perspective, very difficult to see inside the box because of the shadow. But that's not serious for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plot the 1-point perspective that we're talking about, which is the simplest of all the perspectives. 1 point, you actually have 2, 3, 4 and 5-point perspective as a basic. But they actually, I would imagine there would be a 360-degree circle, which gives you perspective running at an angle, changing all the time. So it's changing all the time. But what you do want to do is try and understand it and plot it. So if we're doing a simple box, we're going to start off with 1-point perspective, and the 1-point perspective runs right into the center of the box. So what we're going to do now is remove the box and then start plotting in the idea. I'm using my favorite charcoal pencil and not using a ruler. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a box. It doesn't matter what the dimensions of the box is. Okay, the main subject is to create the center point, which is your vanishing point. So you've got a line that runs right through there to that point, and you've got a line that runs from that corner to that point. So it's something like that, and something like that. Now, this is like really basic stuff, but a lot of people don't get it. They just don't understand how it goes. So I'm going to create the first line anywhere. It can be there, it could be there, it could be where I'm putting it, just at the point there. This is the main line that we're talking about. So what we're discussing is a back to basics idea of understanding 1-point perspective. I'm just going to darken this line, confirming it, making it right. I've created my first line from the diagonals that go towards the 1-point perspective. We're not talking about 2-point or 4-point and 5-point. We're talking about 1-point perspective. So I'm going to create this, I'm going to darken this line. Eventually this is going to be painted, mixing acrylic with the charcoal. I love these pencils, they're just so amazing. And try not to sharpen them with a sharpener. Try to cut them with a cutter, slice it off, or else it just splinters and it breaks. So from this point, I'm touching this point and I'm going to cut across here. And then from this point, I'm going to cut across here. And from this point, I'm going to cut across here. And we then have what looks like a strange abstract shape, but in fact this is the back of the box. This is right at the bottom, and all these lines are pointing towards that one point, this one point right here. Very few times will you see an object that you need to paint that does this, but this point is absolutely important when you're doing a landscape, when you're doing a still life, or when you're doing anything that you have a level, which is your eye level. So where is your eye level? Is it down here? Is it up here? Is it off the page? So you have to try and determine this point, even if it's not visible. That's really important. So what I've done is created this box as if we were looking into the carton, like that. And these lines that are running here are running away from you and going towards this point. So now what I want to do is do the detail of the carton as if we were looking into it. Remember that we're going back to basics actually, and this is a very important, I feel a very important basic, and that's to try and get this point in your horizon line and your vanishing point, the point where everything vanishes, where you can't see it anymore. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to reconfirm that we're doing a box like that, and I'm going to include these little flaps that are happening here, these little flaps on the box. So what I'm going to do is just put those lines in, and you can gauge those lines from the box itself. So we're looking into the center of the box, getting the center of the box, which is hard to see at the moment, and then we're using these lines as flaps. Now they are odd shapes, they're very strange shapes, but I'm going to estimate where they are. And so it's an open carton, and I'm going to estimate where these flaps of the carton are. Something like that. So what we're going to do eventually, I'm going to create a sunlight area that runs in this direction. I tend to make it from the right and the top, but it can be anything from the left and the top. It can be at the bottom. If one can look at a light situation, I've got a light situation here, which is like gives you an idea of what the box could look like from different angles. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's picking up on the camera, so we'll just leave it like that. The main thing is to remember that you've got this center spot which is constant. Step one would be to find your horizon line. In other words, are you in a helicopter? Are you under the ground? Where are your eyes? That's your eye level. So at the moment my eye level is, I am looking at the box as if it is super straight, as if it is just straight on, looking at the eye level. Now you start to see the tone that happens. If you know, that gives you an idea of where this flap is. So the tone is important because you've got a bright tone on this side, you've got a middle tone happening on this side. So if I flick it up like that, that tone is middle, and all these flaps are at different angles. So what I've done is sketched the angles in, and now I'm going to tone the whole painting. So I've got my charcoal. The base of the box is very at the back, so it's really further away from you. Remember, this is actually the same size in reality to the one that is squaring up here. So, and I've got my light coming in from the right in the top, so I'm going to tone this in and tone this one in because there's a shadow on that side, and then it's going to highlight on this side. This side is going to be highlighted, this side is going to be shadowed. Do I want this flap down or up? So I'm going to half highlight this one. This one, let's say this flap is up at this angle, so I'm going to leave it white or light. This flap is on the opposite side of my object, so I'm going to darken it, and it's almost as if you look at it like where there's dark and there's light, and then there's half tone, and then dark, and then mid tone, and then highlight tone. This one could almost stay light, so it means it's going to go away from you and actually flap away from you. So that's really important. Now, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to smudge my charcoal in and create a shape, create a tone. Actually, sorry, we've started with shape, but we're going to actually create a tone, light and dark being the tone. And let's just see how it goes. Experiment. It's just an exercise. It's actually back to basics number 2. The previous video was more of a circle than a ball, and it made a circle into a ball. So what I'm doing now is just giving a bit of tonal value to the painting, and start getting an idea that it becomes a form. It becomes a three-dimensional form from just a basic shape. And it's actually looking cool. Very happy with it. A little bit of neutral there. Maybe a highlight here, but we're going to get into that because I'm going to take it back to white with acrylic paint. And I really want this to be dark. Dark. Like the background is dark. Darks go back. The dark tone goes back. It wants to go to the back, and the light tones want to come to the forward, to the foreground. So yeah, just see how this goes. And so absolutely basic, 1 point perspective, all going to this 1 point on the horizon line. Let's see how it turns out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next clip. Now you might hear some music in the background. Okay, that's very South African. It's a South African thing. What are we doing? We're making up the basics of 1 point perspective. The most important thing that I want to point out here is that you always see this 1 point. It doesn't matter where you look. It doesn't matter if it's up or down or to the right or the left. So be aware of this point. You might not see it in the painting. It might not be as obvious as a box, but it's always going to be there. Tone is so much more important than color. And that's why I'm doing this, to show. Let's look at this panel here, this flap that happens on the box. There's the box. That's the box as it is. It's a T box. And I've opened the panels. And if I were to show the tone of this panel here, going from light to dark, light to dark. So I'm opening up and closing up this panel. The light is coming from the right hand side at the top on my 45 degree, and when I close it down and I flap it over, it goes dark. So what happens here is this panel here is telling you that it's going away from you and it's going into shadow. So what I'm going to do now, I'm taking my white paint, acrylic paint, and with a fairly stiff brush I'm going to start creating a painting out of this simple shape. So twisting it over before it dries. I'm getting my grey, and the charcoal is going to mix up with the acrylic paint, which is really cool. I love it. I love it so much, and it can be applied to absolutely anything. So this panel at the back is the furthest away, it's going to be the darkest. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up a bit of paint and I'm going to color and mix up the almost middle tone, but it's 80% tone, and the wet charcoal is going to make it into a medium that you can use as an exercise. This is just an exercise, remember, it's just an exercise. It could turn into a painting that sells, it could turn into something that's quite amazing. So we now have the next tone up is going to be this middle tone that happens on this side. Light is coming from here, so we've got a dark on this side, and we're going to get, I'm seeing that it's, try not to worry about the lines at this point in time. It's just to get a tonal value in the painting, and yeah, we're going to get these square lines, and again we're going to get, let's go there. So I'm going from dark to light. I'm going from the darkest side of the painting to the lightest side. So the darker side, middle tone, and then kind of middle tone, and then getting lighter and lighter on this side. Very light on that side, very light on this side, and this one is going to be the lightest. So we mixing up. Okay, we've got these mid-tones coming up to light, and the paint is mixing up with the acrylic, which is really cool. I love it. As an exercise, it's fantastic. So take it across here, and I don't know where the birds have gone. The birds have, oh, they're in the background. There they are. Very aware of the sound that I hear in the background. Slamming doors and people shouting and making a noise, and that's part of it. But because it is a garden studio ultimately, so I'm getting my light in here. It's kind of a mid-tone, kind of a, see how that grows. It's just so magic. I love it. Light's coming from here, so it's hitting the side of the inside of the box, and it's giving me a very strong highlight. And we almost finished with the exercise, so hang around for the back to basics number 3. Now this flap, I'm thinking that it actually is up and it's facing the light, so I'm going to make it as light as possible. It's probably got a bit too much charcoal in there to make it look like that, but what we're doing is creating a strong highlight on the left hand flap, this left hand flap. So everything's gone a bit grey. What I'm going to do then, as part of the exercise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lighten it further. So we're going to wait for this to dry, and then it will give me an idea of putting a second layer over here and over here and on this panel and this panel. Then that'll give me an idea that these panels are being hit by the light from the right hand side. A very simple exercise, very good to do as a exercise for oneself, like as a painting. So what I'm going to do now it's dried, I'm going to lighten the lighter parts of the whole painting so that it gives us an idea of where these panels are going. So that the first one I'm going to do is lighten up this one. So I want to bring it forward. In other words, I want to bring it as if it's coming up towards you. Yeah, so it's lightening up that side and this side of the panel. Don't worry too much about making straight lines. It's not about straight lines. It's an exercise in seeing what happens when you use tone. This part of it being dark and light. So that's coming towards the end of this exercise. Get an idea of lightening up this whole part. So this flap is going away from you. This flap is coming towards you. It's actually got a strange perspective here. So imagine this flap is coming towards you, and then this flap is going to carry a lot of light. So it's got light coming in from this side, and I want to make sure that that's lighter. So we've got lighter, middle tone, light, dark. Okay, and it's looking pretty cool. I'm happy with it as an exercise. So 1 point perspective going into this stage right there, right at the horizon line, and I'm going to then just put that brush away and get another bigger brush, and then what we do is we take out the arrow. Everyone knows now that this light is coming from the right and the top, and now we turn it into a painting. Actually creates a painting that is frameable and sellable. I mean, it's crazy, like just a simple painting of a box. The next one, back to basics 3, is going to be twisting this box into, instead of straight on, it's going to be twisting this box this way or this way. So now we're introducing a 1 and 2 and 3 point perspective. But there we go, and that's how easy it is. It's really just an exercise in sketching, and very little material, just charcoal and white PVA, acrylic PVA, polyvinyl acetate. And what I want to do, just as a little final, is make one of these panels really light. So I'm using a big brush, and I'm making one of these panels really, really light. So now my whole idea is to help to make a sketch that is just tonal, not even considering any color whatsoever. All we've done is used charcoal and a white acrylic PVA and created a tonal painting. So thank you for watching, and if you want to see more videos, hit the subscribe button. You know what to do. It helps a lot. And yeah, thank you for coming onto the channel.